This is lesson 16-3, units of measure and precision. Our essential question, which measurement is the most precise? There's no vocab for this lesson. Example number 1, which is more precise, 35 liters or 6,000 milliliters? And what we really need to focus on is the unit of measure. So we're comparing liters to milliliters. And when we talk about something being precise, the smaller it is, the more precise it is. Now, if you think back to our last lesson, milliliters are smaller than liters. So they are more precise. So the 6,000 milliliters would be more precise. Example number 2, which is the most precise? We have 18, 18 and a half, 18 and 1/4, and 18 and 1/16. So obviously the numbers with the fractions are more precise because when we have a whole number, that just tells us how many of something, but when we have a fraction too, that tells us how many parts of a whole we have also. So we know it's not going to be the whole number. Now, when it comes to fractions, I know it sounds a little bit tricky, but the bigger the denominator, the smaller it is. Okay? So let's just try this out. So let's divide 1/4 to see what that is as a decimal. And remember, your numerator always goes inside. 4 can't go into 1, so we put a 0. Add a decimal into 0 and bring it up. 4 goes into 10 2 times, which is 8, with 2 left over. 4 can't go into 2, so we add a 0. And 4 goes into 20 5 times. So if we were to rewrite this, it would be 18 and 25 hundredths. Now let's do 1/16 and let's divide that. Numerator goes inside. 16 can't go into 1, so we put a 0. Add a decimal and a 0. 16 still can't go into 10, so we put a 0. Add another 0. 16 goes into 100 6 times, which is 96, with 4 left over. 16 can't go into 4, so we add a 0. 16 goes into 40 2 times, which is 32, so there's 8 left over. 16 can't go into 8, so we add a 0. And 16 goes into 80 5 times evenly. So if we were to change this mixed number into a decimal, it would be 18 and 625 10,000ths. Now let's line up those decimals. Let's line up our numbers so we can compare them. Now, when we look in the tens place, they both have a 1, so that doesn't tell us anything. When we look at the ones place, they both have an 8, so that doesn't tell us anything. But when we look at the tenths place, we see that this number has a 2. 2 is greater than 0. So obviously 18 and 25 hundredths is greater. So that was just proving my point that when you have fractions, when the denominator is bigger, it's actually smaller. So our most precise one is 18 and 1/16. Example 3, put these in order from most precise to least precise. So we're going to practice what I was just talking about. So we have 16th here. That looks like my greatest denominator, so that one is going to be the most precise. And then we have an 8 as the denominator in this one. So that's going to be our next answer. Then we have a 4th. Now, when we talk about most precise and least precise, we're not talking about greatest to least. We're trying to say which one is the smallest unit of measure. So then we have 3.5 because it has a fraction. And then, of course, the whole number is last because the whole numbers are not very precise. And then example number 4, measure to the nearest eighth of an inch. So when you look at this ruler, you can see that it's split up into eighths. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. So that's going to be the denominator because my line doesn't quite make it to the 1. Here's the 1. My line doesn't make it there, so it's got to be less than 1. So let's count up to where the line does go to. It goes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighths. All right, you have 2 practice problems. Don't forget a word problem or a question, and rate your understanding.